Another thing you said, and I can tell you're a pro at this because it transitions very well. You said people come here for the education, things like that. You know, not everybody's going to make the pros. There are a few guys that are going to make the pros this year, and probably next year, and probably the year after that. Specifically this year, there's, 6 guys that are draft eligible that are pretty
We had 11
decent
prospects at Pro Day.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's amazing. You know, when have we last heard that, right? When have you last heard there's at least 2 guys that could go in the top 4 rounds, right? Like,
yeah.
This is amazing. So let's talk a little bit about that. Obviously, Tajay, Dorian. I'm a Deuce guy. I know there's multiple other guys that are in this draft, but let's just kind of run through that. Is there anybody in this class that you think may surprise us? And also touch on Tajay and Dorian. Let's just go through it.
Sure. Are you asking if Tulane fans will be surprised or if the world will be surprised? Because if it's a ladder than Nick Anderson, and it's not even close. He gets all of this flack for being a short linebacker. I don't see how you watch how him and Dorian played as just a tandem all season long. Nick's either the leading tackler or he's the second leading tackler or he's the co-leading tackler alongside Dorian Williams. They led the team in all but 2 or 3 games this season. I think Macon Clark had the other couple ones of them. Just his impacts when he came back the season before that after breaking his leg and was the leading tackler in 3 of the 6 games. You don't have that type of production. You can't throw that all away and just say that a guy's short, but you also can't discount the fact that he pretty much single-handedly spearheaded the greatest single-season turnaround in college football history.
Yeah.
All of the captains are absolutely involved in that, but when Nick Anderson talks, everyone stops and listens. He even told me after the Southern Miss loss that he interrupted Willie Fritz in the locker room, and I think I could count on one hand. It's probably Willie Fritz's wife and Nick Anderson that would be okay with, because he's so commanding. He has such a presence, and he's such a leader in ways that just transcend football. Think about the Ole Miss game. His sister got in a major car accident 2 days before that. She needed facial reconstruction surgery, and this whole time he's in his head thinking, this is the team that I really wanted to play for, and he ends up breaking his leg, playing 3 quarters through that, and then comes back in half the recovery time. I just think the height of his character is so much taller than he is, but then you also look at his vertical, which was taller than Dorian Williams, and his broad jump and his 40, and I don't really see how you can't see that the tape and the numbers at this point are measuring up, just not for the height. And then, the draft guys, it's obvious. I think Tajay Spears is going to be a generational star, and I think he could surpass Matt Forte in the NFL because I think that they had very similar skill sets, but I think the NFL is leaning more into those skill sets nowadays and using the running backs out of the backfield more as pass catchers. And you brought up that Kai Horton pass, and that was a wide receiver type catch by Tajay Spears.
Absolutely.
The reason I reacted the way I did was because that window was so small. And credit to Kai Horton for being able to thread that in there, but just his hands, he's so sure and so fundamentally sound. And then just to touch on Dorian Williams really quickly, I was just watching back the UCF game, and the amount of he had 7 pass deflections last year, and those could have easily been interceptions, and that's something that's so easily coachable, but you can't teach a guy to have an eye for the ball, to keep their eyes on the quarterback while dropping back into coverage, and really just be a ball hawk and be able to blitz at the same time. They're all just such really good players, and they played against guys like Deuce Vaughn and shut him down, and they've shut down I guess shut down Caleb Williams is a relative term, but he's a Heisman Trophy winner. What are they going to do? But I think that they'd shown their ability. I think 3 of the leading rushers in the conference are all on UCF's team. And in the championship game, they ultimately got the better of them. So I think from Deuce Watts to Shea Wyatt, I think Will Wallace has a place in the NFL with his blocking ability. He was in front of Tajay on almost every single play. Even Tylo Phillips, he had really good one-on-one time in his coaching drills at Pro Day. And then I think if you pick from Lemmy Young, Larry Brooks, and Macon Clark, you have ball-hawking secondary players that love to stop the run. And again, that's something that I don't think you can always teach in players.
I love this. I love so much that I even started this by saying, there's 6 guys, and you just went down a list, like you said, of 11 that are all potential NFL players, and rightfully so. I mean, the talent that they have there is phenomenal, and I see you wanting to say something, so I'm going to shut up.
She talked about Nick Anderson, and just you mentioned the film. That's something we talk about with Deuce all the time. If you look at his numbers, they may not be there.
Should have 6 more catches, and those incompletions were absolute BS in terms of the rulings.
But sometimes we talk about it all the time. And he is the player that made us have this conversation. Sometimes it's you just turn on the film and you're like, this guy can, he can play.
Oh,
and it's with him. Same thing with Nick. It's teams get so caught up in the combine numbers or whatever,
right.
Or stats just in general. And we're big. We love Deuce. Like, Deuce is the player, I think, outside of Tajay, obviously, that we just hammered home all year. Like, this guy deserves to be on a team.
His contested catch ability is bar none.
Every time they needed a big catch, it felt like it was Deuce.
Yeah.
I was just about to say, I think what goes under the radar in the Cotton Bowl, and it was unfortunately because he was knocked out of the game, was that extremely crucial catch that got them to the red zone for Alex Bauman to be able to score. Just, like you said, whenever they needed a reliable guy. In the Cincinnati game, when they were down 3 after leading the entire time with 2 minutes left, finds Deuce Watts. Same thing in the UCF game. And like you said, his contested catch ability, he's caught balls over receivers' heads before, or defensive backs' heads. And like I said, he should have several more catches on the season. But I think Michael Pratt, his trust in him and the size that he put on after his first season, and not to mention losing his twin brother to an ACL tear right before the season opener, and them always playing together. And so him really just growing into his own.
Opa.
Party foul. But like you said, I think so many of these guys go under the radar, even honestly Tajay Spears until the Senior Bowl. And then everyone from Tulane sitting here going, yeah, we know. We've been seeing this all season. Where have you all been? I think Tulane this year is really going to be a lesson in who watches tape and who actually looks for good players and doesn't just focus on good programs. Because when you're a scout, you have to take the program into account, but they're not scouting teams as a whole. You're scouting players, and there can be special players on any team. And I think Tulane, their ability to recruit and their ability to find those guys in the transfer portal showed last season in spades. And I think they're really going to prove it this season because spotlight's on them now.